You may not have heard of this, but Heathers the Musical is one of my two all-time favorite stage musicals, along with Wicked. Wicked is getting a two-part cinematic adaptation, and I guess Heathers gets this, a filmed version of the stage show at West End. Hey, I'll count it as a movie of the year, so let's talk about it. Heathers the Musical. I just said that. So, like I said, this is a filmed version of Heathers the Musical, the live stage show at West End. The show itself, which actually first premiered here in America, is based off of the 1989 movie starring Winona Ryder and Christian Slater, which I actually also made a video on a couple years ago during the lockdown. In that video, I mentioned this musical. Now the musical's been filmed and I'm talking about that. Funny how that worked out. So, the story takes place in Westerberg High School in Sherwood, Ohio in 1989. We have Veronica Sawyer. She just got in with the popular girls, the Heathers, which is three girls all named Heather who rule the school, with an iron fist, I might add. Yeah, the society at Westerberg High is a bit messed up, to say the least. When along comes Jason Dean, JD for short, and he's like, hey, I got a solution to fix this problem. Yeah, like I said, a bit messed up. And now we have our story. Let's talk about why I love this show. I don't want to sound too repetitive since a lot of why I love this show I already explained in my video about the original movie, but there are differences between the show and the movie, which actually I also touched on in that video. Alright, so let's just talk about this recording of said show. See, the reason this is in West End is actually because though the show got its start in America, it didn't last too long. It was never actually on Broadway, it was off Broadway, but luckily the show did find a more permanent home in the UK. I think it's been in West End for at least a few years now, and it's still going strong. Which is funny because these actors who play these characters, they are British in real life, obviously, but they use American accents in the show. Some are more convincing than others, but one thing I will talk about is the fact that the show actually has two different soundtracks, one for the American version and one for the UK version, and I'm more familiar with the American version, that's just the one I know more. Which means I'm more familiar with that original cast. Barrett Wilbert-Weed, Jessica Keenan-Wynn, Ellie McLemore. Not too familiar with the UK version with Carrie Hope Fletcher. I've listened to it maybe once or twice and I do prefer the American version, because some of the voices in there just sound a little strange to me. The biggest difference is that there are some new songs in that version that the American version doesn't have. In fact, one song in the UK version replaces one song in the American version. So in this recording of the show in West End, it uses those UK songs, and it did kind of throw me off guard a little bit. It almost kind of reminded me of, and I hate to even bring this up, but in the Cats movie, you know, it used that version of Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer that I didn't like. I was like, no, I like the other version, I would have preferred to use that. In this film version of Heathers in the UK, it was kind of like that, except the songs in this one, I actually like them. They're good. There's one song that Heather Duke has that she takes the spotlight and I was like, this is actually awesome. I actually do want to give all sorts of props to Vivian Panka. She plays Heather Duke in this version. She did a great job. Because Heather Duke is supposed to be that character who is a straight up asshole. She was constantly being put down by Heather Chandler. But after Heather Chandler died, oh yeah, spoiler alert, Heather Duke pretty much seizes that opportunity to rise to power. That was a great scene. And aside from the new songs, there were even some dialogue scenes that I've noticed were different from the American version. I've seen the American version via bootleg. I've never actually seen the show live. But I know it well enough to realize that there are some lines here that are different. There's even a scene or two where I was like, I don't remember this at all. Now, I'm not saying that makes the show better or worse. I mean, it does follow the same story after all. It doesn't really make any major changes to it. And that is kind of the beauty of musical theater. Shows can be different depending on the direction. Sometimes lines and scenes can be different, sometimes new songs can be added or taken away. And it's all in service of the story. That's a beautiful thing. Alright, now this cast. For the most part, I thought this cast was fine. The girl who plays Veronica Sawyer, Ayla Davidson, there were some points where I was like, okay, I don't know if that's quite Veronica. I think her voice took me some getting used to for sure. I guess I was just incredibly used to Barrett Wilbert-Weed's version, because I love her version. That being said, Ayla Davidson was fine. Simon Gordon as JD, though, I didn't really like his voice. It wasn't really powerful enough. It sounded a bit too whiny in my opinion. Like a little too nasally, not enough from the diaphragm. But his acting was really good, though. See, JD is a really troubled kid. Think Connor Murphy from Dear Evan Hansen. He's something like that. And I thought Simon Gordon pulled off those emotions pretty well. Especially when his true colors start showing. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna spoil the plot, because it's worth watching. Now, as for the Heathers, I thought Madison Firth was great as Heather Chandler, especially when she comes back as a ghost to haunt Veronica's subconscious. I mean, she's not like literally a ghost, it's Veronica's subconscious taunting her in the form of Heather Chandler's ghost, and Madison Firth just plays that up really well. And Tellery Hughes as Heather Mcnamara. Okay, here we go. Heather Mcnamara is my favorite character in Heathers the Musical, but the reason for that is a spoiler, so I'm not going to explain why. But I will make the comparison to Ellie McLemore, who played Heather Mcnamara in the American musical. Now, both are fantastic in my opinion, but Tellery Hughes, I'll admit, she did take me some getting used to, I guess. And again, I'm pretty sure it was because I was so used to Ellie McLemore. But I'll admit, by the time it got to the scene in which she takes the spotlight, that won me over. I even started to tear up a little bit. I was like, dude, holy shit. Yeah, this is really hitting me, like this scene often does. So yeah, what I'm saying is Tellery Hughes lives up to Ellie McLemore. She's great. Now, since this is my real first time watching the show in high def with all the details, since again, I've never seen it live, I can actually stand here and tell you, yeah, the first half of the show, like the movie, is incredibly campy as fuck. But again, that is what I like about it. One of my favorite things about Heathers, one of the reasons it is one of my favorites of all time, is because of that loop it throws you for. When it's starting out, you're like, okay, yeah, this is incredibly cliche high school bullshit. Even the acting is kind of bad sometimes. And in this show, even after Heather Chandler dies, it still kind of maintains that campy factor. There is a lot of overacting, but then at the end of Act 1, this is why I love it so much, when it flips at 180 and becomes a serious drama about teenage suicide and murder, and it touches on those serious ass topics that, like I said, most high school stuff today wouldn't dare to touch on. And Act 2 kicks it up into high gear, and I was glued to the screen. The screen being my TV screen. I forgot to mention, this is streaming on the Roku channel. That's where you can find it. I made a Roku account just to watch this. But yeah, the shit gets real, so in the first half I'm like, the campier the better. That way when the story does flip a 180, you're like, oh my god, holy shit, it does totally catch you off guard. It's awesome. Couple more things I want to touch on here. The cinematography in this special I thought was masterful. I loved how this was shot. It was surprising how many of these shots were actually kind of cinematic. Like there are close-ups and angles I wasn't expecting. I was like, how do they get the cameras over there? This was shot in front of an audience, you see them a lot. It's kind of a smaller venue, the other palace is where it is. It was just really impressive. The camera work, that is, I thought it was awesome. And finally, of course, let's talk about some music. The music in Heathers is one of the reasons it's one of my favorites of all time. Because when I first listened to this soundtrack, it blew my mind, dude. I remember listening to the track I Am Damaged for the first time and being like, holy shit, this is the most dramatic thing I've ever heard. Something about these chords, man, I can't actually describe them to you. I was like, how did you come up with these chords? Oh my god. This music is what actually takes the show from being just a regular plain old high school cliche drama to being a real story about real shit. It's all the music. The music is what tells you, hey, we're not messing around. This is not some stupid story. This is real. We're trying to like drill this message into your head. It snapped me out of attention. I was like, okay, yes sir, I'm listening. I am talking about the American soundtrack. I already made the comparison to the UK soundtrack. And I'm not saying the UK soundtrack is bad. The music is more or less still the same, with the exception of a few new songs. But the new songs, like I said, they're not bad. They're good. Especially Heather Duke's. So seriously, all sorts of props from the bottom of my heart to the music in Heathers. Bra fucking vo. So in the end, Heathers the Musical, one of my two favorite stage musicals of all time, is now available to stream on the Roku channel. I highly suggest you check it out. The story continues to blow my mind. The music is awesome. The acting here is all around pretty good. The cinematography is great. Just everything about it is just aces for the most part. I mean, some little tweaks here and there in this recording, the cast, whatever. But all in all, it's still the same Heathers the Musical I know and love. And there is just nothing bad about that. So, Heathers the Musical, have you watched it yet? Have you seen it live? What are your thoughts on it? What's your favorite song on the soundtrack? Do you prefer the American version or the UK version? And what other stage musicals would you like to see filmed like this in Hamilton? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!